I think sooner or later I'm going to be known as that guy who puts two things from completely different franchises together to see how it would work because of how interested I am in topics like this. Today doesn't make sense since you could be watching this anytime. We're going to be speculating on Jonathan Joestar with One for All. Now, Jonathan Joestar was one of, or if not the strongest human in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in terms of pure strength, no stand, and 100% human. I thought this was extremely notable, which made me think of another extremely strong guy from a different franchise, that being All Might from My Hero. All Might at his peak was a hero to be feared, and even now, well, in the anime, putting the characters together is one thing, but I think you get the best results for Jonathan individually if you just give him One for All. Now, One for All is an emitter quirk with two abilities: to stockpile power and to transfer a person's quirk to another. How the stockpiling works has always been something I've questioned, and it's something that I'm sure that no one else knows, since all I've been seeing in explanations, quote unquote, are just in the origin story. So there's a theory on passing down One for All as another factor on which makes it stronger, though I'm not 100% on it at the moment, since I believe we need to get a bit further out into the manga for this to work. I'm still able to work with what I have here though. From what I've examined, the power of One for All jumps an extremely large amount depending on the people. I believe that we have to wait on to see how strong Deku is when he peaks in his own strength, because it adds on with One for All himself. Though I don't have to wait for All Might. Original All Might was comparable to Deku without One for All, which would have made him around this wall level human, meaning like the thinner All Might. He went from that to this guy to where now, as a man who's nowhere near his peak anymore, can punch the air while being suppressed and end up blowing out a whole city block. With numerical comparisons, you have All Might, that's the state that we know him as, of being around 200 million times stronger than he was originally. Well, that sounds ridiculous. The comparison was basically to a regular human, so it shouldn't be as surprising. Plus, the feats back it up to where All Might would stand, and the gap is just visually there. All Might jumping around 9 levels in terms of power, with Deku at around 5. So you can expect a strength increase like that applying for when we go over this after Jonathan. I've done a video going over the strength of Jonathan Joestar, and while I want to redo the video since it's extremely old, a large amount of the information used there still holds up. What I didn't go over there that I can use here is that Jonathan's strength can be easily gone over when scaling against both Tarkus and Dio. Tarkus being the resurrected zombie who casually lifted an almost 1.2 million pound boulder. By casually lifted, I mean finger casual, and he also destroyed the same boulder with the same finger that he picked it up with. Calculating the weight of the boulder and getting a great estimate wasn't as hard as I would think so, since the only thing I had to do were some pixel measurements, figuring out the keying and how that was done for the anime at hand, because it was very easy to piece up all the screenshots together, height of the character, cubic feet measurements, and at the end of it all, I came out with a number that you will see on the screen now. Then along with that, you have Jonathan outdoing Tarkus with the whole collar chain breaking feat that I mentioned in the other video. Jonathan beating Dio could be used, but he won more on skill than just strength alone, because it wasn't exactly blow for blow, and it was more in a battle on who's the more experienced fighter, though you can see Jonathan breaking Dio's defense as somewhat of a strength feat too, because it's extremely hard to get past Dio's defense. Now that we got that all out of the way, Jonathan with One for All. How strong is he? Well, let's think about what I had already mentioned. Jonathan, in terms of strength, is quite a bit under Deku using One for All at his max, and by quite a bit I mean reasonably large if we're talking about the manga. Even if the anime is going off of season 2 Deku, Jonathan won't be able to exactly do what Deku does, but that's mostly on because the versus levels of building level are different on how they're shown, and even then, Deku is stronger by a good amount. I go over that in a different video too on Deku's strength in specific. So, now that he has it, where would he be, since it's like having a weaker One for All to begin with and then adding on the full One for All after, which is a humongous power jump. If we're going to go off of what All Might has shown us, having that kind of strength increase, we can make Jonathan go from building level to mountain level, but that's the power jump from All Might without One for All to the one we know now. To be accurate, we would be using peak All Might comparison, which wouldn't make Jonathan into mountain level, but possibly small island to island level instead. And having Jonathan at that strength is out of bounds ridiculous. This means don't expect Jonathan to punch at the air and having a couple windows shatter. Expect all the buildings in the way to have this enormous hole going right through them. And just having a punch in that general direction and not going towards the buildings just destroys those city blocks free. This also means that his lifting strength, durability, and speed has been increased. To make it easier, all you would have to really do is put him 2 steps ahead of Prime All Might and you would be in the general ballpark because of how they started off. Now, I want to talk about where he would stand in terms of both verses, but I want to talk about the applications of the combination of One for All and Hamon. His punches alone are now extremely strong, but he has access to strong zoom punch now if he wants to get some range on someone that's been freely taking his punch blasts of wind. Having One for All wouldn't modify his knowledge of Hamon though, so don't expect Ultimate Car's level of potency. Also, the whole thing about Ultimate Cars, there's so much things that went into his Hamon, about better blood flow, so many things at once, evolution, all that, so you don't expect that from him. He just has more force backing the Hamon overdrives and stuff that he's had already. Also, since Hamon requires contact for something to work, it wouldn't help towards any of his wind punches, but it would help him in the water when he transfers Hamon through metal or wall, when he does the Scarlet Overdrive, and anything else that he can do. He could already jump high, run on water, and hit an enemy behind their armor because of Hamon, but now it's made even better than that. I'm totally down with this Jonathan, but I also wish I could honestly use him in versus battles if he didn't, you know, like, not exist. Now, quirked up Jonathan is a complete unit in both potential verses. In JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I see Jonathan on Ultimate Cars levels of ridiculous, except Cars doesn't hit nowhere near as hard as this Jonathan, and Jonathan doesn't have Cars levels of hacks. Against all the stand users, Jonathan can keep the range game and win, well, dependent on who we're talking about. While he won't outspeed a lot of these good stands, he'll be fine when it comes to his destructive power and how he won't have to contest with a large amount of the stand users, since him punching at the air would be enough to blow them away. Literally. What I kept thinking of when writing this whole script down was Jonathan in the Endul fight and just having him there and him punching the air and creating this huge sand tsunami and Endul's direction, and Jonathan being able to jump above the same sand tsunami and then blasting even more air at Endul is just that'd just be ridiculous. Also, now he can take punches from the strongest stands here, well, except for the really axy ones. He can take a few hits and just land one single punch on the users, and it's game over at that point. Even if the stand was to defend, it would completely annihilate the user, like if we were to have Star Platinum versus Jonathan with One for All. He takes a couple of these Star Platinum punches, and if he's not getting time stopped, just one hit and it's annihilated right at that point. So while this would make Jonathan the strongest thing in JoJo, he could honestly still lose to hacks that some stands could provide, like Made in Heaven specifically. Now, for my hero, that's his verse now. That's all his. We had seen how powerful All Might is at his weaker form, and his original self had left this large impact on the world of heroes. Now, imagine that we have someone stronger than Prime All Might, which would make him the strongest character to touch the My Hero verse, that we know of at least, for now. Though, I doubt we're going to have an island level character introduced in the near future, but probably further out. I'm not sure to give you any scenarios on what Jonathan would do in My Hero, since you can see what both Deku and All Might do in both the manga and anime, and it gives you a pretty good idea. He's the strongest character, the fastest one, and most likely the most durable. And that would be pretty much it for My Hero right there. That's honestly all you have it for that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll make one of these scenarios with other characters. I'm thinking about more on My Hero and Marvel stuff, since there's so many cool characters that could be put together. And along with that, you have a lot of My Hero characters that hold Marvel and DC influence more on Marvel because, you know, he loves Spider-Man and all that, the creator. I'm sure that I'll be doing more JoJo and Hunter stuff with these videos, so be on the lookout for that. It's Koei, that's his name. His name's Koei. I don't know why I forgot that. You can comment what characters or what character and power you guys would like to see, and which would be cool. I'll be sure to keep an eye on the comments just so I can get an idea of what you guys would want. You guys can follow my media in the description, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. So thank you all for coming out. I'll see you all. Until then, peace out, and Godspeed.